Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for the monthly Creative Cloud Adobe Video Community Meetup. We meet every month to do product demos, highlight somebody from the community with a spotlight on their creative workflow, and meet the teams. And we talk to some of the folks that are working at Adobe about all kinds of stuff, actually. So today we're talking about color. We're going to get into LUTs and curves and gamma and all kinds of things in the Lumetri color panel. We have a wonderful group of people joining us for the conversations and online. And so we will take questions and get some answers to you at the end as well. So please participate in the chat pod and send this out. We love to get the replays on it, and we keep track of that. So we'd love to answer your questions after the fact too, if you're not catching this live. But if you're here, thank you so much for joining us. We are glad to be here with you. And we're going to start with a product demo from our Senior Product Manager of Editing, Francis Crossman.
Hi, I'm Francis Crossman, Senior Product Manager of Premiere Pro. And today I want to talk to you about color, which is super important to get right if you want to make sure your projects look fantastic and stand out. And Premiere already has some really great tools for this thanks to Lumetri Color, but they're about to get even better. And today I want to take you through a sneak peek of some upcoming improvements aimed at giving you greater control while making fine-tuned adjustments. Let's dig in. All right, so here I am in Premiere Pro beta, and I've got a short project about two friends meeting up at a coffee shop. And as you can see, the footage is fairly flat and lacks color. So first thing I'm gonna do is park on a good frame that kind of is representative of the piece. This looks like a nice one. And I'm going to expand the contrast and add some color. So there's a few ways to do this, but I like to work in the curves. And this brings us to our first enhancement, which is that you can expand the size of the Lumetri color panel and the RGB curves expand with it. So here I'm going to add some contrast simply by lowering the blacks and raising the whites, but being careful not to, clip that window out there. And then let's just sort of dial in a nice S curve so I can bring up the mids and brights a little bit, bring the shadows down, dial in that S curve. And this extra screen real estate gives me, just more room to work with to make those kinds of fine-tuned adjustments. Next thing I want to do is add some color, because this is looking fairly good from a contrast point of view. I'm going to go into basic and let's increase the saturation. And this brings us to our second enhancement, which is in the vector scopes here, you can see that those traces are colorized now. And in fact, if I want to get even more fine-tuned here, I can double click and zoom in. And this is going to allow me to really focus in on what I need to see. This is our third enhancement. Double click to zoom in 2 times in the vector scopes. And now I'm set up to do more fine-tuned adjustments, like if I want to work on skin tone using the hue versus hue curve, I can, adjust this. Obviously, that's way wrong, going towards purple, and that's going like way towards green. But if I sort of park it right on that skin tone line, which is right here, that is the recommended place for skin tone. And so you can see that actually he only needs a very, very subtle adjustment, and that 2-time zoom is going to help me judge that. And because I'm working on an adjustment layer, everything that I did is now going to apply to every other shot in the scene. And so, for example, this one looks good, but it could use just a little bit more exposure. Easy to fix. And now we're looking good, and our whole scene is graded just like that, looking really nice. So these are just a few of the exciting enhancements coming to Premiere Pro, but you don't have to wait to start using them. They're live today in Premiere Pro beta, and you can download that and start using them right now. And from all of us here on the Premiere Pro team at Adobe, We hope you have a colorful day.
Okay, thank you so much, Francis. And I'd like to introduce, actually, I forgot to introduce myself. So, hi, I'm Nakiesha, Product Marketing Manager at Adobe with the video and audio tools. We also have with us today Matt Christensen. He is a post-production in his life. He's been a post-production assistant editor on music videos and worked his way up to online editor and colorist for a variety of short form and commercial work. He's based in Los Angeles and joined Adobe to work on the team within Premiere Pro that focuses on film and TV customers. And we also have Hallease Narvaez with us, who is a digital storyteller and video producer currently based in Texas. Yay, Texas. When she's not managing her creative production company, Stumblewell, she documents her life through the video on her YouTube channel, Hallease. And as the Adobe Creative Resident this year, she's expanding her channel to include scripted narrative storytelling, creating classes on Skillshare, and hosts the Trying to Be Somebody, a video podcast that interviews mostly BIPOC artists around their creative careers and process. And just a quick note before we get into this, you may have noticed that this is part one of a two-part series. So Hallease will be joining Francis Crossman on Tuesday for part two, where they're going to get into more of the how-to. But right now, we're going to learn more about Hallease and Matt and their background stories. So hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Hallease, let me jump in with you real quick. So you're a creative resident. Can you tell me more about what that means to be an Adobe creative resident?
Yeah, so I got the chance to pitch an original project idea to Adobe, and as a resident, you essentially get to become a W-2 paid employee of Adobe to pursue your creative project. It also includes partnering with Adobe on a lot of different things behind the scenes. So right now I've been doing a lot of work with Creator Camp, which is really fun, teaching people about Premiere Pro. So it's a really great program. Definitely recommend checking it out and consider applying because I think it's awesome.
We'll drop that link in the chat pod. It's so great to have you. We really, really enjoy working with you. And I think in the past, we've had a lot of people on the Meet the Team section of the video meetups who have been at Adobe for a very long time. And so I'm really excited to be able to highlight some of the people we get to come through and help inform how the products are created and who they're created for and all of that. So we're going to get into a little bit more about your background in a second, but Matt, you've been at Adobe now for a while. How long have you been here?
4.5 years.
And tell me a bit about your background before you got here.
Yeah, so I'm from Nebraska, and I came out to LA to pursue film production and got a degree in that. And I describe it to people like an ever narrowing trajectory forward as I found the part of filmmaking that I really love. So me entering film school would have said I wanted to direct, and then I found post-production and editing, and if you would have talked to me right about it as I was graduating, I would have said I want to be an editor, and then I found all the disciplines within post-production, right? There's visual effects and color and sound and all of that, and fell in love with color, and so I'm not interested in even editing anymore. I specifically wanted to just really get into the world of color.
Love it. And how have you seen, you've been aware of some pretty big shifts in the color story that we're telling and doing in Premiere and the development of that. So what have you witnessed since during your tenure at Adobe so far?
The biggest thing is there's all kinds of levels at which you can think about and handle color. And so Premiere has had a solid set of color tools ever since we brought on board the LUMETRI color panel. But the fundamental thing we've been working on has been color management, and how as the cameras that are available to everyone come down in price and can shoot in more different modes and different formats, it's more and more important that you're able to handle those and manage the color. And so that's the thing I've been most excited to see Premiere come along is the color management side of things. And then looking forward, there's a renewed effort, on are the tools designed correctly? How can they help more people get their color work done more efficiently? And that's exciting too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hallease, tell us a bit about about you and your background. Besides the residency, I know you've been working in this world for a very long time, and then you have big aspirations for what's next. So give us a little bit about that.
Yeah, similar to Matt as well. I graduated from the University of Texas, hook 'em horns and other such things, with a film degree as well. Spent a little bit of time in LA through their UTLA program. And all the while always had my YouTube channel going in the background as a means to have a more creative outlet, and also came back to Texas after graduating to work with different video agencies. So I've definitely been more on the sort of corporate video production side of things, which I think if you're not in sort of the big hub cities, that's where you kind of land in video and film production. But yes, very much all up in narrative storytelling, YouTube laughs, joys abound.
And you're teaching quite a bit. You mentioned Creator Camp, but I know that you are also quite popular on Skillshare. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a top teacher on Skillshare. I joined the platform. It was part of my Panini Press transition that I think a lot of people went through. But I love teaching on the platform. I've always enjoyed teaching people things to just help them tell the story they want to tell. So Skillshare has been a really great place for me to live for the past about year and a half. Love
Yeah.
it.
That's awesome. And Matt, I forgot to mention that I used to kind of manage the social channels for Premiere Pro and After Effects. And when you joined the team, I was like, oh, I'm so excited because Matt from Twitter is joining Adobe. Matt's been a longtime part of the community. He's really, I think you've been sharing your tips, tricks, and takeaways for
Hot takes.
eons. Outtakes, yeah.
Yeah, the Twitter community is really great around the post-production world in general, and even specific to color. There's a lot of colorists on there, and you can find everything from which tool is better for this to creative discussions about, the latest cameras and things like that. So I've always loved the Twitter
Yeah,
sphere.
agree. Same. What are some of the, I mean, you kind of touched on this, Matt, already, but since you're so embedded in the community and have, a lot of connections from your work in the world previous to Adobe and even now, what are the kind of what are the myths and things that you are often correcting with people about color in Premiere Pro? I know you said the color
Yeah,
space,
I
but
mean, one
yeah.
of the big ones is with color management, like I said. So for the longest time, for much of Premiere's history, it was essentially a Rec 709 or a broadcast color space only. And there was some fine print asterisks to that, but the big thing that's changed recently, that since I've joined, has been our color team has really worked to lay the foundation and lay the plumbing to allow Premiere to operate in different color spaces and understand them and translate in and out of them, which is really key to obviously high-end work, but even, like I said, really any level of work as you start to use some of the latest cameras. So that's the biggest myth we hear a lot is Premiere is Rec 709 only, and that's no longer true.
Um, what about you, Hallease? Are the things that you hear? I know you've been teaching, especially with Creator Camp. You get a lot of real-time feedback from people. So, what are the aha moments around color that you're able to bring through?
Yeah, I mean, with Creator Camp specifically, it's more people I would say that are not trying to color grade at a, broadcast crazy level, but are trying just to like add color as a way to enhance their YouTube content or just online content in general. So a lot of times just going through the literal definitions of things for people, like what does it mean to white balance something? What does it mean to get your blacks to a certain level and your whites to a certain level in contrast? And showing them the Lumetri panel and seeing the color spheres so that way they can kind of begin to understand color as a science rather than like, what do I do? Has been really fun and so eye-opening for so many people. And then having them start to play around with log footage if their camera can accommodate that so they get the wider breadth of control is really fun. You don't always want to use it in YouTube land because you're trying to push out videos quickly, but it can be fun to just learn to practice on that to enhance what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because I think that a lot of times the color tools in the Lumetri color panel are really like very profoundly efficient for people who are doing the end-to-end editing and need to do those quick turnarounds, which is a lot of people these days. So the yeah, it's interesting because you're speaking mostly to social video creators. Matt, I think you're talking to people at broadcast TV, film level, and then in just a short while we're going to bring Shawn Craig in, who is our community spotlight, who's doing end to end, doing all the nuts and bolts of video production. So it's a lot of different people who are represented there.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I think the key is, regardless of what level we're talking at, if you care about the video that you're making, then you do care about the color, right? So even if you open the Lumetri color panel and it's daunting to you to get started, you want your video to look the best, and as we'll see, with Shawn and some of the other stuff going on, that you have to address your color to make your video look the best.
Yeah, how important is that for you, Hallease? I agree with you, Matt. For you, and just standing out in a pretty saturated space, which is YouTube. And I know that you have
Was that a
aspirations
pun,
for.
Nakiesha?
Yes, I got color puns forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the title of this session, but yeah, so we've got, there's just so much content on YouTube and everywhere these days. There's so much video content out and about. So Hallease, I know that you have, you have aspirations and intentions around taking your content to, we're seeing a lot of trend around YouTubers striking deals with Showtime and HBO and Netflix and all the like. So note to everybody from there that's watching right now, please, she's amazing. But what does it mean to stand out in that space? And what does color do for you to, just make your stuff legit?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing has been the ease of access into more color. I have been in film and video professionally since I was 17 or so. And so having Premiere have all of that built into it. I also remember Speed Grade and using Speed Grade and having fun with that. Yeah, claps from Matt. But yeah, for me, it's been really exciting to see just the continual innovation that happens in the color space and how cameras are becoming at a lower price point, which allows for more accessibility of different types of storytelling and narrative, ways to start to embark in color to give that look and feel, or even just that tier of professionalism that we're all trying to show. So for me, Sony cameras, for example, have been a real game changer for my entire career, and the mirrorless camera trend. I feel like I look better on a Sony camera personally, no shade to Canon, but I have greenish, bluish undertones, so I always felt like I looked a little weird in Canon. And then now with just the different color profiles that you can find native into cameras, you're having to do a little bit less work in Premiere and can kind of find your ideal look and feel outside of it. On a side note, a lot of YouTubers now are doing the whole RGB fun color situation in the background. I'm not one of them, or a nice Edison bulb, somewhere in the mix. And I'm just out here rolling in the deep with a nice bright window. I don't know. So it's all about what you want,
Well, we are going to I'm so excited that we have this part 2, which I'm going to drop into the chat pod now, but I'm really excited for you and Francis to kind of open up Premiere Pro and show us how you're going about some of those things and things to consider when coloring for different tones and all of that. So I'm very excited to have the opportunity to also talk to you about how you do the thing. Speaking of how to do a thing, let's roll for Shawn's video. Shawn Craig is our community spotlight. Today he is a filmmaker and producer, cinematographer, editor, wears all the hats. And I'll give you more of an intro to him when we get him on the screen. But let's hear a little bit about how he does his process.
They never tell you how hard it is to set up a camera and a light and clean up your desk just to make these videos. I'm not a YouTuber, so this is kind of weird for me to just talk into the void, hoping someone will eventually listen to this. But all that aside, my name is Shawn Craig. I am a DP, cinematographer, and director based in Atlanta, Georgia. I love to make my footage pop using LUMETRI color in Premiere. And today I'm going to share with you how I do that. Maybe not the entire process, but just some things I like doing that make things look good, at least to me. So you'll see how I do that, and I probably am showing you stuff right now, overlaying me talking, so you can see what that looks like. So yeah, without any further ado, let's go to the computer and let's show you a project I worked on last summer that I really enjoyed coloring, and yeah, let's take a look. There's a tool that I love using in LUMETRI color that I just absolutely, every time I use LUMETRI color, I invariably go to this tool, the hue saturation curves. It just allows you to isolate specific colors without having to do a whole lot of qualifying and spend a lot of hours in other software and exporting and re-importing, and it's all right here in Premiere. So after you're done cutting a project, you're able to color it fairly simply. Now, I will share with you, this is just kind of a final color version, color grade version of what I did. I just got a couple clips here that I've pre-colored that I will actually just probably start over with, actually. So I shot this on a C200. This is on a 1080 timeline, and I shot this 4K 60. So I shot this on a C200. I shot in RAW. When I shoot in RAW, or when I can shoot RAW, I do shoot RAW because it gives me the most latitude in these moments in post to get the most dynamic range. So I can still see sky, still see his skin really well. And I'm able to do a lot more in post for several reasons. And I'm also able to do a lot of the cool color specificity things that I'm about to show you. So for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to go through bringing this image from here, from this super flat desaturated look to a Rec 709. There's several LUTs you can find for the specific camera that you own. I'm going to use this LUT that I love using. It's a C200 base cube or base LUT. You can find any just about any of these LUTs at just about anywhere. It seems like it does a whole lot for you. You could stop right there, but I think a mark of a really good image is that you don't just slap a LUT on something and just call it quits. You finesse and finagle that image to make it really stand out. And it's in those minor details where clients can get really impressed, and you can separate your look from the look of a lot of other folks. So cool. I think we're in a really good place here to start tweaking and playing around with some specific colors. I'm going to jump back under curves. We've played with the general the RGB curve here, and we made a super subtle S curve. But now what I want to do, I want to play with these colors. I want to go ahead and just use this eyedropper tool under this first block here, the hue versus saturation. I don't want these greens to compete with my focal image of my poet buddy Will. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on, just add a couple extra points here, so I'll make sure I'm not dragging the whole thing down. So I'm just gonna grab this here. I'm gonna desaturate these greens some. I might even come over here and desaturate some of these greens. Not too much, but enough where it gives a nice kind of faded old aesthetic. Fading these greens kind of can give you like a vintage feel. And I think by desaturating the greens like that, we're in a good place. It just kind of focuses the eye on this blue. But again, we really want to focus the eye more on the blue. Let's accentuate this blue some. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here. I'm going to I clicked on my eyedropper tool, and it highlighted this here. Now again, what I like to do this, I like to just make sure I have a couple extra points in there just so the piece of blue that I want adjusted it's not adjusting other parts of the image, because sometimes if you just click one thing, it can drag the whole thing down. You want to have a couple points just to make sure you're not dragging all the pieces down or all the colors in that area down. So I'm going to go ahead and saturate this some. Now it's very easy to go overboard here. We don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is just give a little more juice. I'm going to add another point here. Just give a little more juice to that. Just super subtle. Just bring up some of the saturation in the blue.
So as you can see, we ran out of time covering the hue versus saturation, but the other two tools are just as powerful, hue versus hue and hue versus lume. So if you want to, you can spend some time playing with it. My suggestion for everyone is just take your time playing around in Lumetri Color. You're going to find so many amazing tools that are going to help you speed up your workflow, and just keep it simple. Hope you learned something from this quick little tutorial, and thanks for watching.
All right. Lots of love in the chat pod for Shawn and his work. Let me tell you a little bit about Shawn, and then we'll get into some more Q&A. But this is Shawn Craig. He is a director and cinematographer based in Atlanta, Georgia. His work spans many genres, from corporate filmmaking with Fortune 500 companies like Wakati, LYS, Beauty, Latched, and Hooked, to high-end music videos with Ludacris, Earth Gang, and Lato. Last year, he worked on a project that received national attention and that caught the attention of Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Ava DuVernay, which led to a commissioned project with her organization LEAP, the Law Enforcement Accountability Project, that is currently an official selection for the 25th Urban World Film Festival. I mean, that's amazing, Shawn. Some big stuff. I also know, we were just talking while your video was playing, and I want to give Hallease and Matt a chance to respond to his video. I personally just find it so extraordinarily beautiful. But what are your thoughts when you see Shawn's work? Hallease or Matt?
I'll say the thing that really struck with me that's a great example of this is you can tell it was shot with intention, and so that's half of the battle when it comes to color and making shots look beautiful. You can't take something that you didn't shoot with some kind of intention and just twiddle knobs in Premiere and hope that it's going to come out looking cinematic or professional. And so you can tell that color choices were made on set and with the camera that make it possible to then give that extra push over the finish line in Premiere.
Yeah, I think sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing that I love about it is just more of the color, sure, but also just the mise en scène, like how everything is aligned in the frame as well, and then how that can then be translated to the color decisions that you make. So, everything from down to like the location, what you see in the frame, to also how it was shot. As you got to see, he shot raw, so you could have a lot of color dynamic range to bring things out. It just, very stunningly beautiful. All the feels. Yes.
Yeah. It also brings up a good question for everybody. I think everybody here has some experience shooting their own stuff and working with other people's content. What are the differences, especially around color choices and communication and collaboration? Shawn, do you have anything that you want to say about that?
Sure. First, I'm grateful to be on this call, so thanks for having me. But I think that a really big piece of this process is being involved, if you can, with the production of it. If you can be on set, it really helps you to give a little input, or to even understand what's going on. Getting detailed notes from your director, producers, understanding what's going on, like making sure that, hey, why don't take an extra 2 minutes to put that extra light up to make sure that X, Y, and Z is happening. So later we're not dealing with faking a light in post or trying to do something really crazy. It just makes life easier for everyone that way.
Yeah. Hallease, any thoughts on working with others and color?
I think so. Right now I'm working on a narrative scripted project, and something that I'm doing while writing the script is adding little notes around color of what the audience may see and things like that. I'm generally a visual person as a YouTuber and stuff, so I think in terms of visuals. And I've been putting notes around what color a character is wearing, or what is the hue of the background, like all that sort of stuff. Little tidbits for someone like Shawn to take from a script and then take to infinity, So I think trying to put those notes, even if you're a YouTuber and it's just notes in, your Google Keep or your notes app on Apple, whatever you're using, start to think about how you can incorporate that and put an emotion behind your work.
I think what I always like to encourage everyone involved in a set or production or any kind of shoot, like the DP or the director, is to play with a tool like Premiere or some of the other software out there that can do color work. You don't have to love color, and you don't want to have to necessarily have to be a colorist, but knowing what is and is not possible and what looks, what is easy and hard in post production. Just like with VFX, you wouldn't want to go and shoot a blank room and say we're going to add all the VFX later. You wouldn't want to, shoot a gray wall with an actor in gray clothes and say we'll make it pretty with color later. And so spending some time playing with footage to know how the tools work and know what's possible will inform you and make you more likely to shoot good stuff on set. That then is a cycle that means the colorist has an easier job, and it's kind of a virtuous cycle there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love the range of experience that you all have here. And I'd love to ask all of you a question, which is just like, why is color so important? And what is it that makes it, for you personally, so incredibly important, that you have a concentration on it and really a point of view? Hallease, we'll start with you.
Ooh, A+ question. Amazing question. Really well-rounded and thought-provoking, honestly. I think for me, it's, like, don't get me wrong, black and white, I think, is definitely a decision you can make professionally for a piece. And it's good because it makes you focus on literally the content of what is in the frame. But, I think everything's better in color, You can push so much more emotion on a scene based on what colors are there and what aren't. And everyone's going to interpret it a little bit differently. So for me, I generally like to have everything I do seem very inviting and have adjusted my colors in not only my camera, but also what I use in Premiere natively to kind of emulate what I would want out of a YouTube video, which is to feel like I'm coming next to an old friend and hanging out and just having a conversation. So yeah, color's everything, man. It's so important.
Yeah. Shawn, I know you've got, in that video we saw some prime choices being made around color. So what is it? Is there an emotional piece of it to you? Or what makes color important to the work that you do?
I guess it would be looking at it from almost a negative perspective. I've seen a lot of bad color, and I know what I want my work to look like. I want it to look high-end and professional, and I want it to really pop. And there's a lot I want to, so that's why I take a lot of care in how I handle my footage and how I handle the shots I take on set to make sure that things are looking really good later. And then it's just, it helps other people to connect with your work a little bit easier, because if they're looking at footage and it's looking a little dusty and ashy, they're like, oh, what's going on here? And you don't want that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt, I think we've heard a little bit about you, but but what else do you want to add to that?
I think what makes color important is that it's part of the tool set of video and filmmaking, right? And so to ignore it or to not take the opportunity to add to your storytelling with it, it would be like if you're a writer and you don't care what font your book is printed in, right? It's like I wrote my words and here they are, but if you should care how your reviewer reads it and how it's presented. And so color is sort of like that. You can ignore it, but then you're left to the whims of the camera settings and things like that. Whereas if you take the time to do even small things, that you can do like A/B tests and take the same shot and make it 5% darker or 5% brighter. And like most humans will prefer the brighter one, right? So we're hardwired to understand signals about color and all that kind of stuff. And so the best videos are the ones that use that attention.
I love it. We talked a little bit about this before too, but Shawn, I think you have, you're really out there wearing all of the hats, and everybody here knows about that. But I'm curious to know, kind of what was your first love in filmmaking? You are a director, a DP, an editor, and working with others. So what got you into filmmaking?
So for me, it started with, there's a very long story with this, but I'm going to give you the very Cliff Notes version of it. I was working a job that that was taking a lot out of me, and it wasn't putting into me the creative. I don't know how to say this, but it wasn't putting into me in a creative way. And I got a chance to, through a long process, I got out of that position. I was in a empty space, and I was like, let me buy a camera. And I bought a camera, started doing photography. And from there, people were asking me, hey, can you shoot videos for me? I was like, yeah, sure, probably. And that's what it was for a while. And that's what really sparked something in me to say, hey, I can capture moving images that really grip people's attention, that really communicate a lot of just powerful ideas and concepts. And that's what really started the filmmaking process for me.
Love it. I love it. That's so wonderful. I have a question. I want to just keep talking to all of you just amongst ourselves, but we do have a question that's coming in from YouTube. We Enjoy Every Day asks, and this is probably a question for Matt, will the hue and saturation and all of that allow for widening to give more precision like the curves do in beta? I think this is a great opportunity to talk about kind of what Francis touched on too, which is what are we seeing in beta? What does that tell us about what's to come for color in Premiere Pro? And what does that mean for precision and precision color editing, grading, correction, etc.?
Yeah, so specifically with what Francis showed off with the curves there, that's why we're doing that feature. So the curves as they were before this are kind of confined to a little box square, and that's totally fine for coarse adjustments and basic things, but you can do some cool things with curves. That's one of their strong points, is to get in there, add multiple points, and kind of define it. And so now with this, sounds like a small feature, but it's really kind of fundamental. If you need that more spatial resolution to draw a more complex curve, you can expand out the LUMETRI color panel and get access to that. So that will give you more resolution against which to draw a curve.
Wonderful. The same We Enjoy Every Day also asked if it's possible to get a close-up of your acoustic hanging on the wall. If you're willing to do that, I will ask the next question while you do that.
I'm not really a sticker guy, and so I put them all on this one guitar. I don't have anything else in my life that has stickers on it. Shout out to the Premiere logo there.
Yeah,
got all kinds of stuff.
I love it. It really looks like you could take it on the road. It looks like a traveling guitar. Yeah. We have John Pooley in the chat asks, can we please have a waveform monitor that doesn't jump around because auto ranging is constantly adjusting to scale? Oh. Is that something you've seen, Matt? I think you're closest to what we're working on behind the scenes.
Yes. Do you think something is in the works to address that? Yeah, we are putting, in addition to exploring further improvements to color tools, we are specifically working on more improvements to the waveforms and scopes as well. So Francis showed the 2x zoom and some other stuff, but that's not the end of those improvements. So
excellent.
We hear you.
And that's true. I'm going to put it in here. There's user voice for feature requests. The forums, both beta forums and the release version forums, are a great place to get to give us feedback on what we're working on and how we're coming out with things. So we love to hear from you. We have engineers and we have lots of people looking at your comments all the time and talking about them and really pulling them into the discussions and decisions that are being made. So I want to make that really clear that we read all of that and encourage you to give us feedback whenever you have it. I have another question, and this one is, we'll give this one to Shawn and Hallease, but Nathan is asking, do you use scopes to do color editing, or are you primarily editing based on visuals? Hallease, let's start with you.
So I definitely use the scopes to balance out everything first. And then when I start to do my color grading, then it starts to be more about what I actually see. I don't have a crazy calibrated monitor. Most of us don't. I usually just try to do last looks on the highest quality monitor that I have available to me. So for me, that would be my MacBook Pro Retina, blah, 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 insert all the craziness display. So I usually put it on that one first or at the end to make sure it really does look more or less what I think it'll look like across everything.
I don't.
What about, okay.
I know, it's crazy. It's terrible. It's awful. I could. I do sometimes, but usually for a lot of projects that I'm working on, I can, my monitor's fine. I can see it just okay. It looks fine. It doesn't look crazy. If I export it, it looks weird. I'll just try it again, maybe with scopes, but by and large, I don't really need to.
I love that.
I wanted to add to that from the professional
Yeah.
side. It's color has a sort of mysterious aura around it, and people know that you can drop 6 figures on a properly configured color bay and calibration and all that, and all of that's important. But just keep in mind the end goal for most of those kind of setups. The end goal is like a film theater or broadcast TV, and those have a standard, a baseline criteria. Can't think of the word. They have a specification, right? That those are shooting for. Right, ACES can get you there, and so that's the reason you would have all that, and so you're worried about the scopes and the signal matching all that. If that's not what you're working on, scopes are useful and they're a tool, but you don't have to live and die by them in the same way, and so you don't get hung up on that or feel like you're not doing it right. I would say the main thing, kind of to Hallease's point, is look at it on your phone, look at it on a different screen, and that gives you a sense of, okay, if it looks really blue and everything, maybe it's really blue and everything. But the dirty secret is everyone's screen is calibrated different, and you can't control what it's going to look like on anyone else's device. So you shoot for the best you can, and that's how it goes.
Great, solid advice. I love it. There's another question. I think we're going to have to wrap up here soon, but I want to get to everything. So Mark was asking if we have any plans to become non-destructive with color edits, like through layers or other things. Is that something that y'all would want? That we have heard from our customers already? Any insights that we can offer there?
Not sure what we mean there, because LUMETRI is non-destructive, right? In that you can change it later and take it off or whatever. Once you export your video, that color is burned in there, but that's how it works.
And we did put some more resources into the chat there. There's a lot to know, and Matt alluded to this earlier. There's just been such a massive evolution of LUMETRI in the course of its time in Premiere Pro, and a lot of things have, there's just a lot going on in there now. So I will put it in the chat again, but there are some, general color workflows. If you want to go really deep in stuff, we also dropped Hallease's Skillshare in there. She's an incredible teacher and mentor, and she's really great. And we've got everybody here are pretty active on social as well. So we'll get their handles are in the chat. But yeah, I think we do have to wrap up. On a last note for each of you, what should people know if they're not doing color yet, if they're doing end-to-end workflows and they are, feel kind of overwhelmed by the idea of it, have a really strong idea of what they want, but not how to get it? What are the best next steps for people who want to explore more and have fun with color? Hallease, let's start with you.
Another A+ question. Wow. Just riddled with them for this ending moment. I'm not stalling. I think the best thing to do if you're starting to get involved in color is whatever you're filming on. To make Matt's point, if your camera has different picture profiles, literally set yourself up and go record 10 seconds in each one just to see what you do and don't like about it. And if your camera has the ability to go raw in some way, whether it's S-Log, C-Log, whatever the thing is, play around with that, even if you don't end up using it all the time, because again, YouTube content creation, you're moving a lot faster. A lot of times you don't have the time to color the way you want. You have to be a little more intentional. It's still just a great step to begin to play around outside of Premiere, and then you can see, taking all of those clips, what happens to it as you begin to mess around with color in Premiere with all of that. And it's just fun, have fun with it.
Excellent. Shawn, any advice from you?
Sure. I have three things. No, seriously, I do have three things. The first one is just practice, get your reps in. I just second everything we just heard, but the more you practice, like set up test shoots with friends, family, model, whatever, and just go and just try. A lot of my stuff I do is still that. I want to try different lighting, so I try that. Second thing is, you can always reach out to people you like on the internet. The internet is very open. You can just DM someone like, hey, I love what you're doing. Is there any way I can sit in? I've done that. That helped my process. I have several friends that I go to this day, that are just great. And then the third one, what's funny is I don't even remember the third one anymore, but it's long story short, there's so much you can do with the internet, but just practice, find a mentor, and YouTube University.
Yeah.
Third one, yes. Win.
There it is. All right, Matt, you want to bring us home?
I want to echo Shawn's point about getting your reps in. No one dies in post-production if you make some bad color choices. It's not the end of the world, and you can undo and try again. And so my advice would be, even if you end up not using them a ton once you get your sea legs, learn what scopes are showing you and what it means, because then if you can have your scopes up and you have your tools up, and as you move something, you see what it does to the image, that will build your understanding of what the tools are doing. And then as you get more comfortable with it and trust your monitor, you don't have to, live and die by the scopes. But that's the objective truth of what's going on. And so that's how you can start to understand the tools better. And they're universal. And if you ever use other software and they have scopes, they'll work the same way.
Yeah. There you have it. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed talking to each of you. And Hallease, I'm so excited that we get to meet back with you on Tuesday at 9 a.m. And you're going to be on with Francis. You guys are opening up Premiere Pro, have some footage to work with, and really kind of do that show and tell over the shoulder thing that Shawn was just referring to as well. So lots to learn there. We'll drop the link. And thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. Your questions and interactions were really spot on. So we will be back on November 3rd. We've got Max coming up. So Max is going to take the spot of the end of October. So we're going to move it out to November 3rd and do kind of a combo October-November meetup on November 3rd. So thanks again, and we'll see you in November.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.